The shadow animatronics are by far the most confusing and weird FNAF characters. Some of the most mysterious characters with an unknown role in the story of the games. Join me as we go on a journey revisiting the full history of the shadow animatronics, some of the most weird characters in Five Nights at Freddy's. A disclaimer before we start this video, I just wanted to mention this was supposed to be a little this was supposed to be just the history of the shadow animatronics, but I came with a theory, with a new theory. I think I didn't see any person mention this before. If someone mentioned this before or came with something similar before, I didn't know, so I don't know, please link me the video or the Reddit thread or whatever. But yeah, this is my first FNAF theory, and I think it can have some potential. But let's go back to the video. Just like Golden Freddy before them, in Five Nights at Freddy's 2 there are two, well, actually three, but one of them is Golden Freddy themselves, mysterious characters that appear randomly throughout the night. Why were people trying to discover something that at best would just make their game crash? Simple. This was a real thing, not like Herobrine or Entity 303 or any other video game legend. This was the real deal. These legends were real. What the fuck are the shadow animatronics? This is a burning question that every FNAF fan wants to know, and I'll try to give my explanation for it. Why is Shadow Freddy a recolor of Wither Golden Freddy and Shadow Bunny a recolor of Toy Bunny? What is their relevance to the story? Are they connected too often in some way? Are they like Golden Freddy? Well, after 11 years, we barely know anything about them. With a lot of appearances in other media, even having a cameo in the FNAF movie, they are still a big mystery in FNAF. So let's start from the beginning with FNAF 2, again. Well, before we start with FNAF 2, the most common theory of the shadow animatronics is that they are created from Agony of the Murders, a concept that was, introduced in the Fourth Closet and expanded in other books and media. I personally don't think there's anything wrong with this theory, but I don't really like it. I think they can have a much bigger role, and this is the theory that I came up with in this video. So if you want to hear about that, continue to look at the video. There are chapters to help you navigate the video if you want to skip to a part, but I recommend watching the full thing. In Five Nights at Freddy's 2, the shadow animatronics are a rare Easter egg. Shadow Bunny or RWQFSFASXC appear randomly in your office just like Golden Freddy, while Shadow Freddy spawns in the part and service room. You make them disappear as you do to Golden Freddy with your camera or mask. The shadow animatronics, like their more popular brother Golden Freddy, appear to not have a physical form and more or less are just ghosts, disappearing and appearing as they wish. So it is said, I don't think their appearances, as they look, Toy Bunny and Wither Golden Freddy, really matter that much. I think that they can probably change their shadowy form whenever they want, similar to how Golden Freddy looks different every time we see him, to how we see a withered Golden Freddy in FNAF 2 and then he's repaired in FNAF 1, and then in sister location he's Yendo. That's a whole other thing that I don't want to talk about right now, but yeah, I think that Yendo is Golden Freddy himself. Well, at this point there aren't really much things we can say about the two shadows. I guess the only thing that they did at this point was foreshadow the original two animatronics, Spring Bunny and Fredbear. The final FNAF game. If Springtrap's jumpscare was any good. It's crazy to think that all the other games exist because Afton had such a shit jumpscare and Scott just said, I need to make another one. This jumpscare is so horrible, I cannot end on this fucking game. So this game should have enough information to see what the shadow animatronics actually are, and to kind of have a conclusive answer to what is everything about in the FNAF time. But before we talk about our two main animatronics, there are some new shadow animatronics in this game. They don't really have an important role, but let's go over them pretty quickly. So there is Shadow Balloon Boy. He appears in BB's Air Adventures minigame in Five Nights at Freddy's 3. So if you skip the exit door that appears after you collect the first 7 balloons and leave the game area in search of the 8th balloon, you'll fall into another room, the sunken place. This is where the Shadow Balloon Boys live. They are black silhouettes of Balloon Boy with a stream of grey tears falling from their eyes. This is kind of something that every kind of Shadow animatronic we see in this game have. So Shadow Puppet only appears in the Mangle Quest minigame, and there is actually Shadow Cupcake, who will appear on night 3 on either camera 2, 3, 4, and 6. These are all the new Shadow animatronics in this game. So let's talk about the 2 main Shadow animatronics that appear in the minigames and have a bigger role in the story. Shadow Freddy and Shadow Bunny also appear in Five Nights at Freddy's 3, but with a much bigger role. To get a good ending in FNAF 3, you have to play 5 secret minigames. With the final one is where you play as RWQSFAFSXC. To access this minigame, you need to double click the Shadow Bunny figurine on your desk. This will let you glitch throughout the minigames to deliver the last cake that you need to achieve the happiest day ending. Now, Shadow Freddy is a whole new story. He has 2 appearances. The first, he appears in your office, like he randomly appears in the corner of your screen, exactly to how Golden Freddy did in FNAF 1 and FNAF 2. So this is kind of like a homage to Golden Freddy, I guess. But the second one is a whole lot more interesting. Between the nights in FNAF 3, there are minigames where you play as each of the animatronics following Shadow Freddy. That says, "Follow me." He will lead you directly to William Afton, who will tear you apart. This will happen each night to Freddy, Bunny, Chica, and Foxy in this order until the final night where you play as the spirits of the kids and make Afton die in the Spring Bunny suit. People often say that Shadow Freddy is evil for making all the animatronics be destroyed by Afton, but hear me out, he didn't make them go to Afton out of malicious intent, but to save them, to free them from the costumes that are keeping them here on Earth and finally be able to move on. While I don't think he knew that Afton will die too and they will remain there trapped because of Golden Freddy, I think he genuinely tried to help them. You can see this better with Shadow Bunny, who is the last piece in the puzzle for the happiest day ending to happen. This is the ending where all the spirits move on and are free from wandering the earth endlessly for vengeance and Afton. So with this all said and done, I will throw my head with this theory here and now. The Shadow animatronics are supposed to be angels. Yes, this sounds crazy, I know, but I am 100% sure that this is what Scott intended for the Shadow animatronics, for them to be guardians, to help the spirits move on to the afterlife, to forget about vengeance and Afton. But we know that didn't work out, did it? They are still here, they are still suffering, they are still trapped. But it doesn't matter. This was where they were supposed to end. FNAF 3 was supposed to be the last game. Everything that came after that is still true. It happened, but I still believe that the Shadow animatronics are supposed to be angels in a sense. Now, while trying to see if any other people came up with something of this theory similar, I stumbled upon the FNAF theories subreddit, and a post made by SolidB6224 has some compelling evidence that I think can help out this theory a little bit more. The thread is going to be in the description, they are created here, so if you see this video, I think you are a genius, thank you. So he starts his post like this. So when light is cast on a 2D plane, it will cast a 1D shadow. That's a line. So with this logic, everything continues like this. A 3D cube will cast a 2D shadow, and a 4D shape will cast a 3D shadow. We are in a 3D plane, so this is what it is referring to. So he says, what if the Shadow animatronics 3D shadows, they are shadow animatronics, they are a shadow, are the projection of something in the fourth dimension. This could theoretically explain why they teleport and can move in the fourth dimension, so we as 3D beings see them suddenly appear and disappear. I guess this makes a lot of sense with this theory. And he also says that maybe all the spirits and the supernatural entities in the exist in the fourth dimension, like Golden Freddy and all the others. With this also said and done, that some theologians speculate that angels and demons and spirits are higher dimensional beings, which will explain their supernatural powers. So he basically says that they exist in the 4D dimension and cast a 3D shadow, and this is why they are shadow animatronics. I personally think that this theory is pretty good, and I hope you see eye to eye with me here. I'm not crazy. I think that they are angels, or at least a higher being. So I'm not going crazy, okay? Gregory isn't a robot. I'm completely sane right now. But let's continue. Now, I know that the whole segment before this was a little crazy, but I'm not done. Nightmare is a shadow version of Nightmare Fredbear. I know, a bit of a stretch connection-wise, but I'll include Nightmare as one of the shadow animatronics. I'm personally on the part that thinks that Nightmare represents death in the FNAF universe, or in FNAF 4. Only appears in the last night, when we know that Sissy, or Edward, or whatever the fuck you want to call him, is on the verge of dying after the bite of...
Was that the bite of 87?
He came to escort him to the afterlife, where he can finally rest in peace. But, this theory kind of falls flat on its head when you remember that the whole FNAF 4 game part, revealed by one of the books, it's just a guess that makes you see all the Nightmare animatronics. But I kind of made a workaround for this. So, as we know, Afton was an evil man before any of his kids died, as we can see in Secrets of the Mimic, where he destroys businesses for no reason. He's just evil. So with this, I bring to the table that he experiments on his kids. He made them experience the FNAF 4 gameplay until Sissy was left scarred by this. He started to see them everywhere. This is why the Fredbear plushie says, "Remember what you saw." After instilling him to remember the horrors he put him through. Yes, this is kind of crazy. So, when the time came, after all he suffered, he didn't die peacefully, he died in a nightmare. This is why he sees death as nightmare. This horrific monster, and not how we saw them previously. Yes, I truly believe that Afton is such an evil man that he will experiment on his kids. I don't believe he is a tragic character, I believe he is truly evil to the bone. And yeah, I know, a bit of a stretch, but aren't all good theories a stretch? The shadow animatronics don't really have a big role in Pizzeria Simulator, but Henry does mention hell when he's talking, so... Now, in Ultimate Custom Night, Shadow Bunny can be spawned by XOR, a shadow variant of DT, but we are not here to talk about him. We are here to talk about Nightmare's voice lines. We'll dissect every single one of them, one by one, and I'll try to explain how they fit into my theory so far.
You will not be spared. You will not be saved.
This can easily just be a simple threat to the killer known as Afton, but what if you think about it from a different perspective? Nightmare in this context still represents death. You will not be spared can mean that his soul won't be forgiven, and you will not be saved mean that he will suffer from the rest of time in the
darkest pit of hell.
The shadow fears thee.
Can be a metaphor to how secretly Afton fears death, and that is why he tried to become immortal with all the experiments he was doing with Remnant and all the stuff. And I guess this one is the most of a stretch from all of this, but I can't really come with anything else for it. If you have an idea, put it in the comments, please.
I am your wickedness, made of flesh.
explains why he keeps this form, this shadow version of Nightmare Fredbear, this nightmare. Gives this form because of what Afton did, how he tortured children, his children, with the Nightmare animatronics.
I'm here to claim what is left of you.
This one, I think, is a bit straightforward. He waits to collect Afton's souls until Cassidy is finally ready to move on from vengeance, until she's finally ready to move peacefully to the afterlife.
I will vomit you back to relieve your horror.
This can mean that he will not rest. Even after the spirits move on, he will still feel all the harm he has done in his life, day and day, night and night, eternity, suffering in hell. I think this is what it means. I think that this is what the nightmare is supposed to represent. It's supposed to be death, or if the shadow animatronics are supposed to be angels, I think we can say that nightmare is, I don't know, a demon maybe, or it's just an angel with a weird moral code. I don't know, I don't really think it matters. This is what I interpreted the nightmare voice lines for my theory to mean, and I think that it is possible that it doesn't really mean anything, but again, any good theory is a bit of a crazy theory. So bear with me a little more, we still have a bit of the video left. Everyone's favorite game, and by everyone I mean no one, Five Nights at Freddy's AR Special Delivery. This is where Shadow Bunny, or any shadow animatronic for a fact, has any major role left in the franchise. So unlike the other animatronics, RWQ FSFASXC is one of the only ones you can collect, again showing his ghostly existence. So if you don't know what I mean by this collect, in this game after an encounter with animatronic, you basically keep them and are able to modify them and then send them to your friend's house to attack them. His mechanic in this game is different but simple. After you collect Remnant is the physical manifestation of memories infused with and possessing inanimate objects. So basically what the spirits do in Five Nights at Freddy's as a whole. He will manifest. To get rid of him, all you have to do is just hold your flashlight on him and repeat this a couple times until he is defeated. Very simple, but I have a theory to what this could mean with the shadow animatronics are angels theory. I think it needs a better name. I will come with something better at the end of the video. Now, this game's story is very different from the rest of the games, and by that I mean that the fact that in canon, the explanation to what is happening in this game is the fact that Fazbear Entertainment is delivering animatronics to your home, similar to the whole sister location thing of rental animatronic. So with this all said, I think that Shadow Bunny isn't sent by Fazbear Entertainment, and he's a whole different entity in this whole thing. Now, why would he stop you from collecting Remnant? That's easy. As I said before, Remnant is what makes spirits possess animatronics. So it makes sense that an angel to try to stop you from trapping lost souls and dooming them to whatever Fazbear Entertainment is doing to them and wants you to collect them. He's trying to save them, make them rest, but Fazbear Entertainment has other plans. Now, why is he defeated by light? I don't know, maybe because he's just a shadow, as I said before. That's just his shadow, and shadows don't really like light, that makes them disappear. But I'm not sure. I'm not actually sure other than this, but I think this is a pretty good reason. The shadow animatronics don't have a major role in the Steelwool era of games, but they do have a presence. RWQFSFASXC appears as a cardboard cutout? What? Okay, this kind of makes my whole theory go away, to be honest, but I think that there needs to be a logical explanation, right? 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 The only thing I can think of is that during the special delivery experiment, let's call it, Vesper Entertainment got a glimpse of Shadow Bunny trying to stop them, and then they decided to make marketable plushies out of him like any good company would. Doesn't make sense, but I don't know if you have any other explanation for this. Again, this is my third time saying this. Leave them in the comments. I don't actually know why it will be there, so I'm sorry. I don't think they really thought that through. Do I think I solved the shadow animatronics? No, not by far. Do I think this can be a start to a new way to think about them as a whole? I hope so. I surely hope that people will think about them differently now. But I started my first FNAF theory with the shadow animatronics are angels, or let's call it shadow angels theory. But I think this makes more sense than Gregory is a robot. This video was supposed to be a retrospective of their history, but somehow I got here. But before I end this video, I just want to clarify that I'm not a Christian. I'm an atheist. Atheist. I'm not religious. I'm sorry, my English is bad at the moment. I just woke up when I'm recording this. And if I offended any of you with this theory, I am sincerely sorry. That wasn't my intention. This was just supposed to be a little theory, and if it got a bit off the rails, I'm sorry. But with all this said and done, I hope you liked the video, and I hope I'll see you in the next one, which will be a little bit less crazy. So, bye bye.